let's keep this thing moving right along. As we get into, let's switch gears a little bit here. Let's go to the NBA side of things. Because we got an interesting conversation around one Patrick Williams as we head into this game versus the Utah Jazz tonight. P. Will was talking with Casey Johnson about kind of how he's grown as a player. And listen, for those of you who want to come in here and say that he hasn't grown, for those of you who want to come in here and say that he's the same dude as last year, you're not watching, you're not paying attention. Even if you look at the stats right now and you're saying he's only getting 11-something points a game, you have to look at the jump that P. Will has taken from 1 month to the next. I don't know if it's the jump that he's talking about just yet. But you have to look at how he's improved his game consistently. He went from shooting 35% in October on 2.4 attempts a game to shooting 50% in November on 3.3 attempts a game. Knocking down the three ball at a much better clip. Scoring more. He's got his scoring up to 11.3 points per game. He's got his rebounds up from 2 to 5.2 rebounds per game. Starting to fit into that power forward role that we're seeing him. And he's slowly starting to figure out his role. Jay Garth has talked about this on the live call, right? He had to figure out what kind of player he was going to be, what level of player he was going to be, how he was going to be able to attack this thing. And P. Will talked about how he feels like he could have been a really good player in this NBA, but now his mindset is that he could be a star to superstar level player in this league. And that's how he's going to approach every game. And there's a couple things in there, right? Like, I think for me, right, let's see you get to superstar level. Again, for me, superstar a little bit different than for most people. But let's see you get to that superstar level. Let's see you get to the next level of, player by winning championships, by winning MVPs, different things like that. I don't think you can get there this year. But let's just talk about the star level. P. Will reaching star level this season. And I've always said this about P. Will. And to me, there's two things that you can break down when it comes to P. Will. The first thing is, hey, I feel like you not only have all the size, I feel like you have all the intangibles. I feel like adding a handle to your game, which he absolutely has added, can take you to that next level. I feel like when you attack the bucket, there's not many people that can stand in front of you. I feel like when how you're playing defensively this season, and the numbers would back this up, you're one of the best rim protectors in the NBA. You're one of the best defenders in the NBA. You are what we hoped that we drafted, and you're slowly turning into that offensively. Here is the thing. We've seen this story from many an NBA player in the league, right? And mentality, to me, is the difference between being Otto Porter Jr. and maybe living up to that Kawhi Leonard standard that we thought he was going to be, or that some Bulls fans thought he was going to be. That is the difference. And you going out there and being a role player to being a star player. Now, I think there's a couple other things that are going to play into that as well coming through this season. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing for me around this Chicago Bulls team is, hey, how are you going to be able to go out there? Or I'm sorry, around Patrick Williams is, hey, how are you going to be able to go out there on a night in and night out basis and contribute to this team? Be the focal point of an offensive run. Be the focal point of the defensive run. And he's done that this season defensively for the most part, right? Slowly starting to work himself into that offensively. But defensively, right, I think we can see him absolutely mentally taking that step, taking on that challenge. He's picking guys up. He's not switching. He's saying, no, this is my guy. I got him. You get out of my way. Hey, Giannis, you want to run down here? Meet me at the rim. Boom. right? Did a great job. Even though Giannis scored a lot of points, the Bulls did a great job against Giannis as a whole. Patrick Williams did a great job against Giannis. You're not going to stop Giannis from putting up 30-plus points. You're just not. But when you can force Giannis to have 8 turnovers that absolutely contribute to the reason why the Bulls come out on the winning end of that game, because they're able to go down on the other end and score off of those turnovers, right? Now you're talking about, okay, that's a way that we can get ourselves into this game, that we can insert ourselves into this game. There's going to be steps for him going to becoming a 20-plus point player again. There just is, right? Like, that's probably not going to happen through the rest of the season. I didn't expect it to. What I was hoping for from P. Will, I believe my preseason prediction for P. Will was you give me 15-plus points per game. I would like you above 15, but if you give me 15-plus points per game and you're one of the best defenders in this NBA, you're showing me that you're taking a step. You're showing me that you're getting to that next level. You're showing me that you realize last season was a fluke, that you're trying to get to that, okay, listen, I can come out here and not only do this defensively and be what we need defensively, but also figure out how I can make it happen offensively for this team. And I like seeing that, here's the thing. At a minimum, I like hearing the mindset. I like hearing that he believes that he can get to this next level. I like hearing that he believes he can be this next level player, that he can be a star in this NBA, that he can be a superstar in this NBA. Reach for the stars, my boy. I love hearing this. But the proof is in the pudding. And I'm going to tell you what, right now, there's not a ton of history for me to go on outside of the last, 10 games? Because outside of those 10 games, right, and here's the one thing that I'll say. Outside of those 10 games, one, you were coming off, you ended up getting like 15 minutes a game in some of those games. Billy Donovan absolutely started going away from you. Billy Donovan started not utilizing you at all in some of these games. You basically were just starting because we needed somebody 6'9" to start the game, and then we didn't see you again. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing that this Chicago Bulls team can do for Patrick Williams' confidence is slowly give him the role back that he once had. And we've seen them do that more and more every game. I will say there's some moments for me where I look at Billy Donovan and I question whether Billy Donovan is going to hold back Patrick Williams from becoming that player by not letting him play more. But also, that trust that you have is easily lost versus being quickly gained back. Trust is easily broken, much easier to be broken than it is to gain back. And to me, looking at the rest of this season, looking at what P. Will is trying to become, right, and then you've got to work your way back into that role. You've got to work your way back. And I would like to see Billy put him out there a little bit more when there's a 6'11" dude out there that he's guarded really well the entire game. Maybe, right, don't play him in the third quarter as much. Play him more in the fourth, or don't play him in the second quarter. Whatever you want to do. Like, give me a little bit more of him in the crunch time where I need him versus these really tall dudes that shoot the basketball well. B.I., Jason Tatum, i.e., you know what I mean? Guys like that. Michael Porter Jr. Moments like that. But at the same time, I'm not going to say, right, that I'm mad that P. Will is working his way back into this slowly, because you know what? Billy Donovan started this season, AK started this season, and they said he's going to be a next-level player. Him and I are both going to take a step. They're going to come out. They're going to show out this season, right? They're going to prove us right. And you know what? For the most part, I think Io's kind of had a little up and down. But for more times than not, we've felt good about what we've seen from Ayo Dosunmu than not. It wasn't that at the beginning of the season with Patrick Williams. Patrick Williams came out being the same dude, wasn't being aggressive, wasn't getting to the bucket, wasn't trying to take shots, wasn't even playing well defensively, right? Like, he was playing poorly on the court as a whole. And from 1 month to the next, taking those minutes away, slowly working him back into the offense, slowly getting him back, you've seen the growth of him. And listen, there's a bunch of metrics that'll tell you absolutely what you want to hear about Patrick Williams. Defensively, how he's in the 70th percentile in rim protection, how he's one of the best rim protectors in this NBA, how players take less shots going up against him at the bucket, right? If you want to hear all the breakdown, Hayes had all the offensive stats over on Locked On Bulls. Make sure to check that out as well. Right. But just like how many stats there are that say not only defensively, but also offensively, the growth of P. Will from 1 month to the next took him from being like one of the mid-level players in the NBA to one of the best defenders, one of the best finishers around the rim, one of the better three-point shooters in the league, right? Like all of those things are things that you have to look at. And so if we're talking about, right, what he has to do to take that step to become a star, what he has to do to take that step to be that star level player that we think he can be, it's up here. You see it. You see it. And if you don't see it, it's because you don't want to see it. You want to hate on him, whatever it is. But for those of us that are watching what he's actually doing on the court every game, the people that are in every live game, the people that are in every chat, stuff like that. By the way, we'll be live for the Chicago Bulls game tonight versus Utah Jazz, so tune in with us on that as well. Right? The people that are engaged in all of that, you see it. You can see that he's growing. But guess what? I saw that with Otto Porter Jr. standing next to John Wall and Bradley Beal. He was that missing piece. He was that missing link. I saw it. Otto Porter could play. Otto Porter should have been so much more. He had every intangible. He could shoot the three ball. He could shoot the mid-range. He could play defense. Back to the basket game was crazy. He could do everything. But it's up here. The words sound good on paper. I want to be a superstar. I want to be that sounds good on paper. How are you going to implement that? How are you going to get that to play out, right? And I think that's the part with this Bulls team as a whole that we've questioned quite a bit this season, right? That's the part with this team as a whole that we've looked at and we've been like, it sounds good. But y'all haven't actually implemented the things that you've said you want to implement. It sounds great. Let's do it. But are you actually going to do it, right? Like, and for me, right, that's the biggest part when I'm looking at this Bulls team that I have question marks on. And it's the biggest part when I'm looking at P. Will that I have question marks on. I've said all year, I haven't changed my tune on it. I've said he let me down a little bit early on in the season because I thought he was going to do a little bit more. But I know what you have the ability to do. Guess what? I have the ability to be one of the best doggone people in sports talk. I have the ability to do that. How do I implement it? How do we get to that next level? How do we take that next step to where the Windy City Breeze is over the ESPNs? Okay, now I've got a plan together. Now I'm trying to put that together. How are you going to implement this? Like, I see you slowly moving in the right direction, but I tell you what, as much as I love the fact that you have turned into this level of player and he's shooting above 90% from the free throw line, above 50% from the three-point line, above 50% from the field, right? Like, cooking. How do we keep that moving in the right direction? And I think that's the biggest question that is wrapped around the Chicago Bulls team coming through this season. The entire team, but especially Patrick Williams. Especially Patrick Williams. Because at the end of the day, I've talked about this. You don't become a championship contender until one of your young pieces takes a step. That piece could be Zach LaVine. That piece could be Patrick Williams. That piece could be Al DeSumo. Lonzo Ball, if he ever comes back, maybe he's that piece. Maybe whoever it is. You don't become a championship level team until that player takes a step. History tells you that. And I'm willing to bet a lot more on what history has told me than what could happen in the future. The Bucks don't take a step until Giannis becomes Giannis. They don't. I don't think Bud's a good coach. I've never thought Bud was that good of a coach. I thought he benefited a heck of a lot from having Giannis Antetokounmpo on his team. I think he continues to benefit a heck of a lot by having Giannis on his team. I don't think that, name the guy, right? I think Kerr's a pretty good coach. I guess I can't say that. But how many coaches have we seen, right? Like, the guys that win have that superstar level talent on their team. And it's pretty consistent and it's pretty locked in that there's consistent superstar level talent on this team. And when you go the route of continuity, you have to find one. And guess what? You have to find one in the draft. So I don't think the Bulls take that step in becoming a superstar level team until they take that next step in the draft. Or one of the young pieces you have takes that next step. Right? I think that's just when you look at the best teams, the teams that win for a long time, some young dude figured it out. It clicked. Or he came in cooking. And when he got to that star level player, you were like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like, look at this guy. Now they're there. Why do we get a Blazers a chance every year? Like, we look at the Blazers team and we're like, yeah, the Blazers right now, right? Like Jeremy Grant, Anthony Simons, they're nice. We like it. Okay. But if Dame Lillard's on that team, we're like, oh, you got a shot. Because we think he's that level of player. And if you don't have that level of player, you don't look at those teams and be like, they're going to make the NBA Finals. So you got to hope. You got to pray that somebody takes that step. And hopefully it is Patrick Williams, as he was talking about this with K.C. Johnson, about him feeling like he could be a superstar in this league. But hey, man, I appreciate you guys for showing love. Let me know how you guys feel on Pat Will, man. Do you think that he can grow into a superstar level player in this NBA? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. Also, let me know in the chat as well. We will be live again tomorrow, or I should say premiering.